So apparently, white America cannot lie anymore because as time goes by, the world keeps on seeing the truth. The world keeps on seeing the reality about what really America is capable of. And this was a country, or this was a nation that was seen as one of the best. It was everyone's dream. But something went wrong in the middle of all this because the moment Trump destroyed the United States, that's when people started seeing the weakness of America. And now there is nobody that hates America as its own citizens. Not America as a country, but the political side of America, because it is the political side that is making all these things difficult for all the Americans. Brothers and sisters, a nation which was once believed in, a nation which once held the dreams of millions of people across the globe, is now seen as a major mediocre. And people are asking themselves, how did this happen? Because as time goes by, people keeps on seeing the reality. People keeps on seeing what is really happening in the United States. And if you think I'm lying, American citizens themselves are going to come out and speak out about how the realities of America and everything that is happening. Majority of them still don't believe that this is the America that they were taught. This is the America that they were told to believe in. Some of them even goes ahead and confess that we never saw this coming. Because this is not the America I grew knowing. No, 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 no. This is another America. It's like waking up on a sleep and realizing that what you are being told to fantasize about was all but a dream. The America that you are told about was all but a dream. That's why it's called the American dream. Because when you wake up and see the reality, you see that most of the times, all these people lie to you about what they're trying to present to you as America. So brothers and sisters, I want to switch this video and then I'm gonna be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. And if you're watching me for the first time, I'm your host and presenter Engineering Stories. So let's get into it. I'll be back.
People all around the world are absolutely hating Americans right now. More specifically, they're hating who's in charge.
You want to know what Australia thinks of America? Here you go. Stop. Do I blame them? Absolutely not. As I said in my New Year's video, America has become a fucking dumpster fire from Sucktown.
Here's something that a lot of Americans are going to have a hard time accepting and understanding. Donald Trump has destroyed America. America is over, at least as we remember and understand it. The United States as a country will continue to exist, but it'll be different.
All right, so look, the world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Think about that for a second. For decades, this country has sold itself as the greatest nation on earth. The land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the model that the rest of the world should follow, that the rest of the world should look up to. That story worked for a while. It was powerful enough to cover up the cracks. But the cracks are just too big now, and people aren't buying it anymore. Not the world outside of America, or the people who live inside of America.
So my mom just texted me and she's like, hey, don't look at the news right now. And I'm like, why? What happened? And she's like, well, you're at the airport and I don't want you to get upset because, you said you can't yell at the airport. And I'm like, because I am. I'm still at an airport. And I'm like, Mom, what happened? And she's like, the Trump immunity decision just dropped from the Supreme Court. And I just scrolled through that. So we cooked. Y'all, I don't want to catastrophize too much. I don't want to ruin your Monday. The Supreme Court decided to do that instead. I don't want to ruin your July 4th. Your July 4th is fucking meaningless. Right now, the Supreme Court basically just said president can do whatever the fuck they want. And then when they leave office, you can't really be prosecuted. You have to prove that that wasn't presidential. That's what they said. It has to be an unofficial act. An unofficial act. So as long as they put it on presidential stationery, it's fine. As long as it says from the office of the President of the United States on the top, then that's official, baby. And we can spend decades in court arguing otherwise. So here I am, still stuck in an airport, and here we are, just being proven over and over again that the writers have been writing this nation real shit, and we cooked. That's it. That's where I'm at right now. We cooked. Have a good day. Hope you guys have enjoyed it so far. Make sure y'all turn the lights out when you leave America.
The reason why poor white people continue to support Donald Trump, even though his policy directly makes their lives even worse, is because they don't actually vote for politicians on the basis of policy. They actually vote for ideology. Donald Trump embodies whiteness and he upholds white supremacy. And for a lot of poor white people who have accomplished nothing in life, who have very little access to opportunity, upholding something that gives them worth, even though it's based on the one thing that they had no control over.
Countries. Do you want to visit us anymore?
No, just flat out no. And the ones who do want to go to the US, it's because they do not truly understand what it's like to actually live in the US. So I'm going to break it down for you. The American dream is dead. America is for the wealthy and nobody else. Another thing is, I'm afraid of being unalived at every single point. Like, I step out of the house, whether it be the grocery store, at a restaurant, it doesn't matter. And I'm a privileged person. I am a white person, and I am afraid of the pew-pews. I cannot even imagine what it's like for people who don't have my skin tone. Another thing, it's very hard for me to make friends being outside the US, like even for a year. Like, it's one of two things. Either they get this look on their face where I'm just like, okay, they just really don't care, or they see me as bragging. Also, the food is designed to make us sick, and don't even get me started on healthcare.
Like Europeans' opinions on why they don't like Americans.
I'm an American that's been living in Amsterdam for about 8 years now. I'm completely integrated. My partner is Dutch, which is why I moved out here. I speak the language. I've got primarily Dutch friends. And here are some of the reasons why I have found that the Dutch, particularly, don't like American. So the Dutch mentality is all about nuchterheid, is the word that they use. And it's about being down to earth. It's about being level-headed. It's about being just like everybody else. Nobody is better than anybody else. And if you look at the American mentality, it's completely the opposite. It's about trying to be better than everybody else, trying to be the star, trying your hardest to be something. They find that type of mentality completely rude, dishonest, and how they like to call it, fake. The second biggest reason is because Americans are brought up with the idea that America is better than everybody else, this savior complex that they saved everybody. They are the example, and that couldn't be further from the truth. If you look at things like gun control, healthcare, safety, equality, I mean, the US is the worst. Not admitting to that is something that they completely hate. And lastly, I don't know why, but there is this view that Americans are dumb. We are just dumb to them. I think that's something we're never going to be able to change. They're always just going to view the American mentality, the American mindset as just dumb. After 8 years living here, I can safely say that I totally agree with the Dutch mentality, and I share their view on us Americans, sadly. As much as I love my American friends and my American family, I don't love my country, and I only saw freedom and opportunity until I left it.
People all around the world are absolutely hating Americans right now. More specifically, they're hating who's in charge, but there is a trickle-down effect to those who voted for Trump. There are so many people in this country that don't realize we are not viewed favorably. We are not the golden children that you think that we are. The rest of the world is moving on without us. The rest of the world is finding other allies and finding other resources. Many of you keep doubling and tripling down on what the Trump administration is currently doing, but there are many of us that can see clearly that we are losing our allies right and left. Have you had a conversation with a Canadian lately? I understand that many of you voted for this, and this is exactly what you want. But there are plenty of us that are not okay with the way things are going right now. And we understand why the rest of the world is fed up with us.
America is not what it once was. I've got some bad news for people who don't travel internationally. The world hates us, okay? We're not the big dogs. We don't have the clout that we once had. We aren't even like statistically on top of anything, education or anything anymore. And I've traveled a lot internationally. Over COVID, obviously, I stopped. And there's always been an underlying tone that America is dangerous. But You know, we run Hollywood, so a lot of the media that is consumed by people in other countries is still American. However, I'm on my first international trip since COVID, and it has gotten worse. I have heard from every nationality that America is dangerous, but I arrived in Indonesia, which is a country that, you know, a lot of people aim to get out of and go to America. And the first thing that my taxi driver says to me is that he's afraid of America because of all the poppy seeds that we're taking and all the jazz powder that people are using. And he's convinced that people are walking around the US like zombies, because that's what's on the internet. That's what these people are seeing. And I think it's a really big lesson if you are sheltered and are not leaving the US. We don't got it. Like, we don't got it anymore. People don't want to live in America. People aren't eager to live in America. When I was in Europe, a lot of the kids said their parents wouldn't let them go to America because they were afraid they were going to get popped by the police. Like, those are the fears. The only fear that Americans have when their children travel overseas is that they're going to be like in the movie Taken, which is a very small possibility. And they just use that as a fear. I don't even, like, that's not really even a founded fear. People aren't taking Americans when we go, because you know how big of a hell case they would raise if some little white girl went missing? That's not what's happening. But what is happening is other people from other nations are going to America and bad things are happening to them. So, just a reminder, we ain't shit. We ain't shit.
The reason why poor white people continue to support Donald Trump, even though his policy directly makes their lives even worse, is because they don't actually vote for politicians on the basis of policy. They actually vote for ideology. Donald Trump embodies whiteness and he upholds white supremacy. And for a lot of poor white people who have accomplished nothing in life, who have very little access to opportunity, upholding something that gives them worth, even though it's based on the one thing that they had no control over, even though it's based on a lie, is more important than fighting for a system where everyone benefits. And this is why there's always this sort of state of confusion when people say, how can you vote against universal health care? Why would you not want more money going to schools? Why are you okay with a politician blatantly taking your tax dollars and pocketing it, rather than using it for the greater good? When poor Europeans came to America, they received a benefit in America that they were not afforded in Europe, and that was whiteness. And all they had to do was abandon everything they learned in Europe, abandon their heritage, their language, their customs, their traditions, anglicize their names, and they were afforded every single privilege that they did not have in Europe. They could be entrepreneurs, have access to loans, send their children to good schools. They were finally on the top of the hierarchy. And I don't think people realize how much success in building wealth and having money is tied up into whiteness. It is a political term that was born out of capitalism. And so for these white people who have not actually succeeded under this system, whiteness means everything to them. This is why you have poor people who are so against systems like socialism, even though it would give them more power. It would give them more agency. That would actually require that they give up the one thing that they value the most, the one thing that gives them value. And if that means worshiping someone like Donald Trump, while he destroys Social Security, makes their lives more unaffordable, makes it more difficult for them to access healthcare, that is what they're willing to sacrifice.
All right, so look, the world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Think about that for a second. For decades, this country has sold itself as the greatest nation on earth, the land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the model that the rest of the world should follow, that the rest of the world should look up to. That story worked for a while. It was powerful enough to cover up the cracks. But the cracks are just too big now, and people aren't buying it anymore. Not the world outside of America, or the people who live inside of America. Nobody believes the story that America is telling anymore. Nobody is buying it. Let's start with how it looks on the outside. Other nations pay attention to what America does, not just what it says. And what they see is contradiction. America talks about democracy, but history has shown that it has interfered with elections and overthrown governments all over the globe. America talks about peace, but it's been at war almost non-stop for generations. America talks about freedom, yet its foundation is built on stolen land, on exploitation, on slavery. And the people who live outside of the U.S. can see this clearly, and they're tired of pretending that they don't. Now, in the last decade, this global rejection of America has sped up. America has pulled out of global agreements, insulted its allies, and started pushing the America First message. Now, I know at home in America, this sounded bold and noble, but to the rest of the world, it looked selfish. It looked reckless, unstable. It said America doesn't want a partnership. It just wants control. And what did other nations do? They started making their own trade deals. They built new alliances that didn't include the U.S. Some even started making plans to move away from the dollar. And that is how empires decline. Not all at once, but step by step, as the trust erodes. And then came the United Nations meeting the other day. This was literally the biggest stage in the world. Every nation, every leader, every camera is watching. And what did America do? America's so-called leader stood up and called climate change the greatest con job ever. That man stood up there and he mocked global cooperation. He stumbled through the speech like it didn't even matter, like he didn't even care. And then the real icing on the cake, while he's standing on the global stage with all these cameras and all these countries and all these leaders watching, this man tells all these countries that they're going to hell. Just sit with that for a moment. Think about that. The so-called leader of the free world, standing in front of the entire planet, telling every nation in the world that they're going to hell. And what was the response? The world laughed. They didn't clap. They didn't cheer. They laughed out loud. That moment right there was the mask slipping in real time. On the biggest stage there is, the United States wasn't seen as a leader. It wasn't respected as powerful. It was laughed at. And that laughter is the cherry on top of everything I've been saying. Because when the world laughs at you, they're not taking you seriously anymore. You're done. You're cooked. Now, while the world outside of America is losing faith in America, the people who live in America are also losing faith in America. Look at the daily life we have here. The wages that we make have been stuck for decades, yet the rent and everything else is getting more expensive every second, every minute. Like right now, you can literally walk into a store with half a cart of groceries and pay more than what you used to for a full cart worth of groceries. Like you spend more money on this half cart of groceries right now than you would have on a full cart of groceries not too long ago. Like you're working harder and harder, but your money stretches less and less each year.
This is a great question, and I genuinely believe that I know the answer. People from other countries are not fed the same propaganda that we are. People from other countries have better critical thinking skills than half of the people in the US. People from other countries are not raised to pledge blind alliance to their country. They are not fed the propaganda that their country is the best in the world and don't question it. But there are so many Americans that still believe this. There are so many Americans that can be told that Donald Trump is not doing the things that he's doing, and they'll believe it. Even when presented with clear evidence and facts right to their face, they'll just deny it. They don't believe in science and evidence. The average Trump voter is not able to discern fact from fiction. That's what it comes down to.
Here's a sample of what the rest of the world thinks of the United States. Green means you have a favorable opinion of the US, blue, unfavorable. A lot of these tie into current events, like Poland's sky-high 93% rating, which makes sense given our mutual support for Ukraine. The overall results will be a bit surprising to those of us who remember the 2000s and the unpopularity of the Iraq War. Today, nearly twice as many respondents have a favorable view of the US as an unfavorable view. But I think the result that's going to surprise Americans the most is just how unpopular we are in Australia, where nearly half the population has a negative view of the United States. And that's in direct contrast to how warmly Americans view Australia. If you take the two positive categories and combine them from this survey, Australia is the top country that Americans view favorably. What gives? Why do they dislike the US so much down under? I have some thoughts. Not only am I a historian and a policy geek, but I spent every summer of my teenage years traveling around Australia. And the first thing to remember is Australians all learn in history class that they spent the last century playing second fiddle to the imperial ambitions of their British colonial overlords and then on the behalf of America in Vietnam and the Gulf War. For example, one of the biggest blockbusters of the 1980s was the movie about the Battle of Gallipoli, starring none other than a young Hottie McToddy, Mel Gibson over here, where British officers callously threw Australian troops at prepared Turkish trenches. In the 1960s, Australians very much felt that once again, Australian troops were being sent, this time to Vietnam, to fight for the imperial ambitions, this time of America instead of Britain. The largest per capita anti-war protests in the world were actually in Australia. And so for many Australians in the 90s and the aughts, it felt like Australia was repeating that history all over again, this time in the Middle East. But the thing I actually heard the most as a teenager in Australia, especially in the 90s, was a sense that the US wasn't playing fair with Australian farmers. Now, you and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about agricultural policy, but it's a big deal in Australia. It is a net exporter of all kinds of agricultural goods, especially sheep. I remember sitting in a ute, a truck, with an Australian farmer who was just spitting mad at Bill Clinton for hypocritically lowering tariffs with Mexico and Canada as part of NAFTA, but raising tariffs on lamb exports from Australia. The US is used to getting its own way regardless of what anybody else thinks about it, but imperial entanglements and trade protectionism makes us enemies where we should be making friends.
America is not what it once was.
Oh, but America was never what it once was. That's the big reveal. That's the final lesson learned of the crumbling empire, when the people within it start to acknowledge that all the flowery stories, the highfalutin ideologies, the heroic tales that they grew up being taught to identify through were always just lies, were always just propaganda crafted by the ruling class as an excuse for their own existence, as a motivation for the peasant folk to continue soldiering on and carrying the weight. You're part of something greater than yourself. And you're hardly alone in this lesson. I mean, one of the most common tactics utilized is the appeal to a return to the good old days. Basically, every generation of samurai fetishized some previous generation of samurai, where men had real honor and things were the way they should be, and those were the real samurai. Countless Roman emperors and politicians and generals committed countless atrocities in the name of returning Rome to its former glory. Everybody's chasing a return to the good old days, but the thing is, there was no good old days. It's all just an echo of a thinly veiled lie told to keep people in line. The Roman Empire were never superior people. The Catholic Empire were never really doing the work of God. The British Empire were never really bringing civilization to the savages. And the American Empire, which is really just kind of a corporate consumer capitalist empire wearing an American hat, were never really fighting to spread freedom and democracy and peace throughout the world. They were all doing the same thing, really, which was taking things that didn't belong to them by force, and then making up a bunch of stories to make themselves the good guy while they did it. It's a tale as old as time of the strong taking advantage of the weak, of the lucky bully that found themselves at the right place, at the right time on the world stage, and were able to transform that moment of luck and prosperity and strength into a dynasty built on a foundation of lies lies and violence and deception. Now, I will admit that this current iteration of ownership class have been particularly crafty. They have learned lessons from previous mistakes. See, rather than trying to glorify themselves as noble elites chosen by God to rule over you, they've glorified the system by which they rule, the free market capitalist economy and the sacred democracy, and don't think it's a coincidence that people have been conditioned to conflate the two. They've taken a global economic system of control and oppression and transformed it into an ideology, nearly a religion, and it's written into the ideology that the system is synonymous with freedom and prosperity. That way they get to hide in plain sight as job creators, as innovators, as men of industry whose tendrils spread throughout the world, across borders, globally, through invisible economic means, insulating the empire itself from responsibility from the damage being done in its name, for the slave labor and the blood spilled and the theft of resources, for the necessary evils required for this empire to be able to grow and prosper.
The American people aren't going to do jack, and you know it. You're probably American, but if you're not American, let me explain to you why the American people aren't going to do anything about Donald Trump. For the record, I wish they would do something. I wish they listened. I wish they voted. I wish they didn't throw their votes away on third-party candidates from the last election. Actually, I wish the Senate did their freaking job in 2021 and impeached, convicted that MFer so he would never be eligible to run for president again. But here we are. Here we are. And I'm going to keep talking about it because I keep getting comments. The United States of America is full of people who do not care or cannot comprehend what is actually going on, because the majority of Americans, and this is going to sound cruel, have the reading skills and comprehension level of a middle schooler, someone about the age of 13, 14 years old. That is a statistical fact. Most people in the United States, you can also look this up, do not read or watch the news. And if they do, the news we do get here in the United States is so heavily censored and filtered, it's not the whole truth and it's only one-sided. You have to physically look for international news sources and outlets to get the full picture on what's happening in our own country, let alone the rest of the world, and you call us ignorant. It's the system. The system was designed to make us ignorant. The system was designed to isolate us. And we also have the attention span of a flea. So you've probably already scrolled on, you're not even hearing this anyway. And what do you expect the American people to do about Donald Trump? Most of them live paycheck to paycheck. Most of them are dependent on their job for health insurance. Most of them live thousands of miles away from Washington, D.C. Not that marching on Washington would probably do much anyway, because no one's really there, and if they are there, they're not doing anything. Hello, Congress? Yeah, that raid on Venezuela? Run from Mar-a-Lago, not in Washington, D.C. So what will that actually do? People would actually have to book flights, not drive, book flights to go to Washington to be in the numbers that needed to be there. But again, most Americans don't care because they're not paying attention. They're not watching the news. They're not reading the news, and they're not even getting different perspectives or the whole picture because that's only available outside the United States. So I don't know what you expect the American people to do. And if you say general strike, we are beyond that point. I think we can all agree that yes, it would cause economic disruption, but I think we are beyond that point of actually causing effective change at the top, if you know what I mean.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. Again, I'm your host and presenter Gender Stories. There's one thing that I like to say. It is indeed the truth that the world is done with America. And most of Americans too are done with America. But at the end of the day, when we get to look deep at the systems, when you get to look deep at who are really running the United States, you know that the United States is being run, America is being run by a lot of white supremacists. And they are attacking America in the way that they want. They don't reason with everyone. They don't reason with people. Fascism is the order of the day. And people are getting to see the reality of the matter because life is getting so much difficult, even for the citizens of America. And this is one question that they are asking each other. Is this really the America that we voted for? Is this really the America that I want to dedicate my entire life, that I want to put my family to live in? Because people are losing faith. People are losing hope in America because they are seeing everything that is happening. They are envisioning everything that is happening. But then leaves one question. Is this really the America that we want to live? Is this really the America that I want to wake up in the morning living and seeing? So brothers and sisters, as you know, I usually like sharing people's opinion in regards to this because I believe that it's a really important in the trajectory of also getting people's opinion in helping you, have other perspectives in what's really going on. So brothers and sisters, as I was, watching this video, I realized that there was a comments that people are sharing that, I believe it's important for us to, have a look at and really see what transpired or really what is happening. So somebody said that the world hates white supremacists. Keep it real. America has killed so much people. The earth is crying out due to slavery and the killings around the earth. There's so many harm that America has done across the globe. There is always American intervention. America is always intervening in other countries' activities, especially geopolitically. And America has really been a menace to, different states, different nations, because it has interfered with the political life of different countries. Somebody said that the world has not trusted USA for decades, but USA citizens did not know. USA caused or fund most of the wars in the world. Warmongering world had enough. Same exact thing that I just said. It has caused tremendous problems in different other countries. And so the world is getting to see what really America is doing to, other nations. Somebody saying that these people don't hate America. They hate Trump and other white supremacist, racist people of America. But they didn't care about Americans until Trump started doing things to their country. So I think they're hypocrites themselves, just like a lot of white people voted for Trump, but stopped supporting him because what was he doing? What he was doing was affecting them. I mean, they are all still racist, regardless. But because of phone cameras along with social media, all these hatred is being, documented so that people can all get to see the reality and can also get to see the truth and really what is really happening. Somebody also said that they hate white Americans for racism, fascism, and starting all of these wars, creating global economic crisis. The USA don't have any allies, and Iran are making fun of America with Lego videos on social media. That's good for your, for your all wrongdoings. Thank you, Iran, for standing up for us Black Americans. You are the only country in the world, in the entire world, who stood up for human rights. We love Iran. So, as time gets, as time goes on, people keep seeing the reality and how all these things are unfolding. At the end of the day, you realize that, yes, America is getting exposed. And that one part that people never want to talk about, they are right now talking about it. And so I really don't know what you'll think about this. I just want to know your opinion in regards to this. Well, as you know, I'm your host and presenter, Generic Stories, but until then, I'm hoping to see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.